Tesla's full self-driving beta has come a long way, but still makes scary, spur-of-the-moment decisions that can be really dangerous.
What was that?
Yeah.
We went into the wrong one.
Yeah.
You may have come across the recent news regarding Tesla's recall amid the NHTSA's findings of lack of safety controls to ensure drivers are attentive at all times while using the full self-driving beta. While this is news that no Tesla owner wants to hear, I do understand the NHTSA's concerns, especially after using it and seeing its flaws and limitations up close. Stay tuned and I'll walk you through my recent road trip experience with Tesla's full self-driving beta version 11.4.4. I own a 2023 Hardware 3 long-range Tesla Model Y that I have had since the spring of 2023. This road trip consisted of me and my mom road tripping to Vegas for Thanksgiving, in which we both took turns driving. My mom is a bit of a technically challenged boomer.
Yeah, I don't like it.
Press down twice. No, down twice. Full up, full down. There you go. Oh, you disabled it. With a very different perspective from mine.
Why is it stop? Why is it going on stop, stop? When I do this thing, it was saying stop.
It might just be bugged, Mom. I mean, this sensor's utter shit. It's saying stop because it's stupid, that's why. Yeah, just ignore it. I elected to not pay for the FSD beta up front, instead opting to subscribe for a month at a cost of $200 whenever I have a road trip or anticipate driving a lot. My vehicle's version of FSD updated to 11.4.4 mere days before departing on the trip, which I was fortunate for as it contains several improvements over earlier versions. Version 11.4.4, as of the trip, was a popular version of the FSD beta that a sizable portion of all FSD beta Teslas were also using. While a little disappointed, I do understand the findings from the NHTSA's investigation of Tesla's autopilot system. It is far from perfect, and in the real world has potential to make severe mistakes due to the variety of driving situations and conditions. But that is to be expected when pushing the envelope with a feature set this ambitious and this unbounded in scope. I'm going to primarily be pointing out faults and situations in which FSD drives poorly, errors, or even fails, with the intention to share the tech's limitations so that people will have more accurate expectations of the feature. This better understanding will lead us to not only operate the feature more safely, but to be able to better share the road with vehicles utilizing this feature as well. At present, FSD is solid enough that most of the time it operates without incident, but on occasion it will suffer deficiencies which can vary dramatically depending on the situation and driving conditions. The FSD beta has come a long way, improving considerably since the early beta versions. It works most of the time, but when it fails, it can fail pretty substantially to the point that I can see how it can be the culprit of severe accidents if the driver lets their guard down at the wrong time. One such example of this kind of failure occurred while my mom was driving on a one-lane road that became very wide. As the semi-truck ahead was moving over to the right to make a right turn, FSD was very hesitant to move past it on the left and opted to wait for the trailer to move out of the way. I encouraged my mom to press on the gas to override FSD's hesitation, at which point the lane widened substantially and the vehicle started lurching to the right, in what I think was an attempt to go to the center of the lane, just as an aggressive pickup truck behind us moves in to overtake us on the right. Despite the truck clearly being visible on the right blind spot camera, the Model Y still lurched 2 times to the right. It is possible that the sunlight shining squarely in the center of the right blind spot camera's frame was to blame for failing to detect the pickup, but that only strengthens the case to use additional sensors instead of solely relying upon cameras and Tesla vision. I think FSD was conflicted when it saw a super wide lane and the pickup, and that manifested somehow in the 2 lurches to the right. I've personally observed that FSD seems to like to move to the center of the lane where possible, but in this case it evidently made attempts to do so fairly aggressively and failed to yield to the passing pickup, instead actively turning towards it, which I consider to be pretty egregious. Additionally, it is important to note that the pickup was tailgating and got awfully close to the rear of the Model Y prior to maneuvering to overtake. A major deficiency in self-driving tech is the AI's lack of understanding of intent based on other drivers' behaviors. Any competent defensive driver understands that tailgating is a sign that the car behind you wants to overtake you. This can typically be resolved in one of 2 ways: pulling over for the car, allowing it to pass, or letting it overtake you by slowing down and keeping distance. In this case, the AI had no understanding or awareness of what the aggressive pickup truck driver was bound to do to get ahead. Had it any inclination of the intent of the pickup driver, it wouldn't have attempted to turn right just as the pickup was overtaking and instead could have pulled over to one side to allow it to pass, just as it had done in another instance on the same trip. In this instance, the FSD beta detected a tailgating vehicle and moved to the slower lane, allowing it to pass. It even calls out the fact that it was changing lanes to move out of the passing lane when it made the lane change. The FSD beta is able to conduct most maneuvers without any kind of intervention, but generally doesn't conduct them smoothly. At a roundabout, it accelerates quickly mid-turn in order to keep up with the vehicle ahead. Unsure if the vehicle is going to hit the curb, my mom takes over. Did you disengage it?
It's going too fast and it was going somewhere else.
So you disengaged?
Sort of, I guess, with a held it.
Yeah, that's fine. Make note of how much the Y accelerates at the apex of the turn by looking at the white acceleration bar and the speedometer. Another instance of the FSD beta's abrasiveness comes when driving in a town. It is about to make a left turn and decelerates to about 40 miles per hour before briefly accelerating back up to 42 miles per hour and then suddenly changing lanes and decelerating further. You can even see the braking force in the movement of the camera itself. Make note of how much the power meter gauge is moving. According to the owner's manual, power being fed back to the battery system is displayed in green, while regular braking power is displayed in gray, toward the far left side. In this incident, notice how both times the car brakes, it reaches the gray zone, which is not only abrasive, but suboptimal, as not all of kinetic energy is being recaptured by the regenerative braking system. One of the most dangerous maneuvers FSD performed was while driving on a 2-lane highway at 85 miles per hour after sundown. This stretch of road had regular dedicated left turn lanes, and at one of them the vehicle decided to get in one of those lanes. Fortunately, I was able to immediately take corrective maneuvers without much incident other than waking my napping mom, who inquired about what happened.
What was that?
Yeah.
We ran into the wrong lane.
Yeah.
Additionally, this mishap happened on a particularly lengthy dedicated left turn lane, as most on that stretch of road were actually quite short and didn't have continuations of the dedicated lane to allow for merging back onto the highway. Furthermore, given the time and distance it took for me to recover from that mishap at a speed of 85 miles per hour, had this incident occurred on one of those shorter lanes, I likely would have veered off the road to certain doom. You veered into the left lane. You're supposed to be going straight. Left lane was taken at around 80 miles per hour. Bad. The next scenario occurs in Vegas. While driving to a supercharger, FSD made a good move at first by not slowing down when lights at an upcoming intersection turned yellow. The timing was awfully close, but it did manage to make it through the intersection before the lights turned red. Slowing down was done overabundantly, applying the brakes rather harshly instead of smoothly braking and relying solely upon regenerative braking in order to slow the car. Then, when moving into the outer left lane, FSD failed to keep the car within the lane, instead driving the left tires over the lane divider, managing to only correct itself shortly before coming to a stop. Upon the light turning green, the vehicle made a successful left turn. But then, moments later, it confuses the middle turn lane for an overtaking lane and attempts to overtake the vehicle ahead of me, prompting me to intervene. Later, towards the end of that same drive, when the light turns green, the vehicle hesitates to accelerate through the intersection, causing me to apply my foot on the gas to ensure the car didn't stop or slow down in the middle of that intersection. It's lurching. I had to give it gas right there. And upon reaching the destination, the vehicle will come to a complete stop and leave the indicator on, waiting for you to take over. On the trip back from the supercharger, FSD makes the questionable decision of changing lanes while in the process of overtaking a vehicle, despite having almost a mile to get into the right lane for an upcoming right-hand turn. Additionally, it makes a lane change in the middle of an intersection which, while not illegal, is not good driving form. When approaching an intersection, full self-driving hallucinates and briefly routes itself to make an early right turn before correcting itself. After passing the intersection, the Model Y hallucinates once more and incorrectly gets into a dedicated right turn lane, before realizing it needs to keep going straight, then tries to get into the left lane, but there's a car now to its left, so it awkwardly creeps over to the lane divider until I intervene. It's doing okay. It did an indicator and everything. Was responsible. You intervened?
I don't know where it was going. When I hold it, then it goes against me and then it goes out. I don't know. I didn't do anything. I was holding it to take it the right way.
Oh, no, it's not gonna listen. It's gonna, yeah, it's too sensitive like that.
You tell me you also have to turn it, and when I'm trying to do it and then it goes off. So okay.
No, like, it needs to feel that little bit of resistance, but it's only gonna resist you so much. If you hit a threshold where you're resisting the turn more than a certain amount of force, it will turn off and be like, okay, I'll let you drive because you want to take over.
Yeah,
That's the way it
just
works.
Let me drive because I want to take over. I know what I'm doing.
Having my mom take the wheel a few times during the trip was eye-opening and really helped me better understand how a less technical person perceives the driver-assisted experience.
Stupid thing it is.
What happened?
I'm just putting it in auto because it'll take me to the charging station. That's it.
In one instance, despite having been driving with FSD enabled for over an hour, she didn't understand what she needed to do when the console flash blew. She thought that she needed to grip the wheel harder instead of applying a slight turning force to it. I fault the overly minimalist user experience in the vehicle's instrument panel for this lack of understanding. The notification appears with small lettering by default at the bottom of the screen, well out of sight of a driver with eyes mostly on the road. I know I personally feel pressured to look immediately at the notification before it disappears, given how briefly it appears for. Having the default user experience designed in such a way that a driver has to go out of their way to ensure that they see the briefly visible notification before it disappears is inherently bad design. Come to think of it, this gripe may be a contributing factor to the NHTSA's recent findings. It really wouldn't surprise me one bit. Here's my mom's thoughts on the self-driving feature.
The Tesla was easy to drive.
Why were you worried about it?
I was initially worried because we were doing that auto thing. I don't like the auto thing at all.
Why?
It goes in the wrong place. It turns from like that thing. Then T2. I don't like it.
Otherwise, it's fine?
Yeah. The only thing was when I came to a bakery here, I was putting in his address. It wasn't navigating to there.
You can scroll down to recent places and just select it from there.
Okay.
What gives me some pause is the fact that the FSD feature is so robust and stable most of the time that it lulls most users into a false sense of security, allowing people to let their guard down, me included. FSD can malfunction at any time, and if a user is distracted by looking at their phone or happens to take their eyes off the road for a couple seconds to interact with the touchscreen at the wrong moment, it can have devastating results. So please, for yours and others' safety, remain ever vigilant while using any kind of self-driving functionality. Maybe the Tesla recall due to the NHTSA's findings can make users of autopilot and FSD features more attentive and less lax while behind the wheel, improving safety overall. Tesla's full self-driving beta running version 11.4.4 is good, surprisingly good, given that it's operating on all roads in the wild, something that competitors in the space can't really tout. As a fan of tech and a dreamer of a future where autonomous vehicles are the norm, I really hope they succeed. So, I'd like to know, what do you think of the NHTSA's findings, the DMV's allegation of false advertising, and the FSD beta? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. I hope you found this informative.
It's too expensive.
Is it worth it for $200 a month?
Maybe for this long drive, for you when you drive. I don't like it.
You don't? Seriously? It looks like you're just relaxing, having the time of your life. Are you kidding me?
That time of my life.
You are.